This week, we laugh our way through the Star Trek ripoff Galaxy Quest, and along the way we ask, which Star Trek show does this ripoff? Why is Sigourney Weaver almost useless in this film? And how does Alan Rickman become the best character we've seen? We'll find out on Force-Fed Sci-Fi. Hello, everybody, and welcome to what is sure to be another rip-roaring time on the Force-Fed Sci-Fi podcast.
Rip-roaring time?
Yeah, I am one of your hosts, Chris Rupp, and I am joined by my co-host,
the bombastic, stupendous Sean Michael Cole.
Oh my.
Bombastic.
Like a Ringling Brothers circus leader over here.
I guess so. I just kind of watched CinemaSins on that Hugh Jackman film where he played like the Ripley. Do you remember that musical that came out?
Yeah, The Greatest Showman.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm thinking I'm in a bombastic mood. Apparently that movie sucked.
I haven't seen it. I can't attest to it.
I can't. But CinemaSins.
But we're not talking about a Hugh Jackman movie today.
We aren't. We're talking about
Galaxy Quest.
Boom, baby.
I was excited to revisit this when this came up in the list. It had been a minute since I seen this, and I got to admit, I was kicking myself that it's been that long since watching it.
I never saw it. I think I saw the ending when I was like 10 or 11, but I've always wanted to. I heard it's a great spoof parody on Star Trek fandom and fans, but I'm glad we got around to this, that I could finally watch it.
So let's provide our listeners with a quick plot synopsis, shall we?
Yes. Take it away, Chris, because I know you love it.
I love doing this. I really do. So almost 20 years after a semi-popular space adventure TV series has ended, its actors find themselves out of work and appearing at fan conventions to make ends meet. Until one day, a group of aliens who believe the show to be part of the historical record arrive and recruit the show's cast to save their entire race from destruction.
Oh.
Yeah, like on paper, this is a great premise.
Oh, it's hilarious.
There isn't a Star Trek writer or like TV, other space adventure writer who would have tackled this premise before Galaxy Quest came out.
No.
And it seems right up the alley to do a Star Trek episode about this.
Absolutely. It's just brilliant. Think about that. Like if someone sees, like if anyone overseas a third world country or anyone that watches a TV show and believes that it's reality and they come up to you. Oh, it's brilliant. It absolutely is brilliant. It's like someone approaching Bruce Willis and being like, hey, can you help us? We have terrorists in this building. We need you to get them out.
Yeah, how's it going, John McClane?
Yeah, exactly. It's so brilliant.
Wow, you lost your hair from the first movie, man.
You've aged.
And then he just looks at him like, that wasn't a documentary, right?
What? What is this lying thing you speak of?
So let's discuss the cast and crew of this movie, because there's a lot to actually unpack with that, and I was surprised to learn some of this researching this.
Hey, well, you talked about the casting, like how many people that they went through auditioning.
Yeah.
And they almost took, cast for like...
Well, starring Tim Allen, who leading up to this had did Toy Story, Buzz Lightyear, obviously.
And then Home Improvement.
Yeah, that's a great show from the 90s.
Oh, my God. I used to watch that show all the time. Loved it, man.
We have the legendary Sigourney Weaver, which we don't have to list her resume. She is a treasure.
Brilliant.
We have Alan Rickman, the great Alan Rickman. Rest in peace, my man.
He is brilliant.
We have Tony Shalhoub
from Monk.
Yes.
If you've never seen Monk, he's great.
And also appeared in a previous podcast subject, Men in Black.
Yes. And then we rounded out with Sam Rockwell.
Yes, in one of his early films, pre-Oscar days. And
yeah.
Sam Rockwell, if you ever needed proof that Sam Rockwell has always been a great actor, you don't need to look far.
No, he's incredible in this film. That dude, I'm glad he finally got his nod.
But there were some notables who were considered, auditioned, and even offered other roles in the movie. Like Alec Baldwin, for instance, turned down Jason Nesmith.
That's hilarious. I couldn't see Alec Baldwin as him, like just the voice, the way he talks.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe they wanted him because of like the William Shatner vibe he would come off as.
If we're talking Hunt for Red October, Alec Baldwin,
yeah,
I would say okay. Let's do it. Maybe like not so much chunky Alec Baldwin, angry Alec Baldwin that we're getting nowadays.
30 Rock Alec Baldwin.
Look, Alec Baldwin nowadays, like every 18 months, he's in trouble for something.
He is.
You can pretty much mark it on your calendar. Every 18 months, he's getting arrested for something.
I always forget about that, whether it's harassing photographers, journalists,
or beating up somebody who parked in his spot. Yeah.
God, that man.
Every 18 months, he's in trouble.
Forgot about that.
And yet Tom Hanks, never in trouble.
No, you are amazing. I love you. Who else?
So he turned down the role of Jason Nesmith, and also Steve Martin and Kevin Kline were considered for that role.
Kevin Kline?
Yeah.
I could maybe Steve Martin, but still, Steve Martin, I just couldn't see it. Tim Allen is perfect for this role. I'm glad it was Tim Allen. He's brilliant as Jason.
Yeah. And Sam Rockwell almost backed out of the role as Guy.
That's nuts, because he literally, he's that perfect comedic piece.
Yeah.
He's brilliant the whole film.
He's the guy he's the Bill Paxton character who's always on edge and just convinced he's going to die.
I'm going to die.
Game over, man. But actually, Tony Shalhoub convinced him to take the part and to stay on.
Tony Shalhoub, that man, I've got so much more respect for him now. I mean, I already appreciate him.
I mixed that up. It was actually Kevin Spacey who convinced Sam Rockwell to stay on.
Oh, Kevin Spacey.
But here's the Tony Shalhoub thing. He actually auditioned for Sam Rockwell's role.
What?
Yeah.
Tony Shalhoub? No way.
Then the producers felt he didn't fit the role of Guy, but they thought his mannerisms would fit Fred.
Perfect.
So that's why he was cast as Fred.
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah. Now, this is before we found out he was human garbage.
Well, right. He just won American Beauty Best Oscar during this time, 99.
But rounding out the cast are a bunch of or notables who auditioned for roles. Another human treasure, Paul Rudd.
Wow. Before he was somebody. Yeah.
David Alan Grier also auditioned for a role, and Jennifer Coolidge also auditioned for a role as well.
We also have in this film, what's that guy's name? Jeremy Long? Or Justin Long.
Justin Long, the film debut of... It is actually the film debut of three notable actors. You named one in Justin Long.
Is it Rainn Wilson?
Yes.
Yes.
Dwight Schrute from The Office.
No way.
Yes.
Dwight, is it? Wait.
That is Dwight from The Office. That is Rainn Wilson.
Okay. Yes.
He's the acquisition officer in the limo.
Yes.
He's Teb or something? Or no, not Teb. He's someone else.
That's right.
And then we have
those are the only two I know.
And Missy Pyle, who played Leilari in the movie.
Missy Pyle. Oh, yeah. This was her first film.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So notable debuts from three actresses who've gone on to do bigger and better things. So that's always cool when you find a movie like that. It's like, hey, they were in this before, they got big. That's why I watch October Sky so much. Because it's Jake Gyllenhaal, before he got big. And then, Chris Cooper before, he exploded onto the scene, too. And Chris Cooper's always been a great actor.
Chris Cooper is so underrated.
He just never got big opportunities. And then October Sky came around and was like, you're awesome. Even though you're kind of a jerk in this movie.
God, I love watching films when they're new. It's like my dad. I mentioned Rainmaker with Danny DeVito and Matt Damon as lawyer films. And he tears up. He's like, man, Matt Damon was great. He busts out there as a young guy and you just see him crush it. I'm like, it's all right, man. You don't know him. It's okay.
But back to Galaxy Quest, though, actually, Alan Rickman almost turned down his role, too.
Alan Rickman, and he basically, I would say he steals the show.
He is, hands down, full stop, period, the best character in this movie.
His sarcasm is just, and I love sarcasm. So immediately when he went on stage and he spoke his first line, I'm like, I'm gonna love this man.
I used to be an actor. 5 cutting calls. Now look at me. Look at me. There's this great clip of him on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and they're sucking helium out and they're talking to each other. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Oh my
God, I've seen that. I've seen the Morgan Freeman one. Oh my God, that one's brilliant. Because Morgan Freeman's in his helium voice, he's like, I don't know why I came on this stupid show. I'm never coming on here again. Morgan Freeman.
So I think that rounds out the cast. That some notables from the crew real quick. This film was written by David Howard and Robert Gordon. And David Howard doesn't have a lot of IMDb credits, but Robert Gordon's actually known for writing Men in Black 2.
Oh, no way. So he got in that Sci-Fi
Yeah.
gig because of this. Okay.
And this film was directed by Dean Parasad, who mostly directed TV prior to this.
Well, it had that TV-esque vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just brilliant. It's what makes the film awesome because it almost feels like a TV episode of
Well,
Star
you know
Trek.
who was originally set to direct the movie?
Well, you told me, but you can tell them. I'll let you
Harold
tell them.
Ramis.
That's crazy,
The
man.
legendary R.I.P. Harold Ramis.
I was gonna say I'm surprised Bill Murray didn't audition, but at the same token, him and Bill Murray, I guess, had a falling out after Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
So that's probably why Bill Murray wouldn't be cast as Jason.
Yeah.
But good God, hey, rest in peace to Harold Ramis, man. That guy, he did great stuff.
Well, and made on a $45 million budget, which
not too bad.
Not too bad. A pretty modest budget for 1999.
You can tell. You can tell.
And originally, the film was going to be titled Captain Starshine, which, thank goodness, that changed. I mean, it's like from Back to the Future when it was really originally going to be called Spaceman from Pluto. Like, oh my goodness.
What the crap, man?
I am so glad that it was not Captain Starshine.
What? Captain Starshine and the world of today. Like, come on, man.
That's like Marvel Cinematic Universe titles rejects there.
Right? Exactly. Like, who? Who do people come up with this? And then they're like, this is great, man.
But Harold Ramis left the project because of casting difficulties.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Casting difficulties?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess. Because Tim Allen usually gets a lot of flack for not being a good actor, which I don't blame him. He's a comedian. And not to say, though, that comedians can't act, but especially like at his time with Home Improvement, people were like, oh, you can't really act. But I can see why. That he was having some difficulties. But Tim Allen ends up crushing it. I was actually pretty shocked when he has that dramatic scene when he's like telling the guy the truth about the TV show. I'm like, wow, he's actually got some chops to him. He can act.
Yeah, I was surprised to remember how funny this movie was.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The humor holds up so well after 20 years.
For some of it. For me, at least. For some of it. Like when Tim Allen is like mooning the aliens, I did not laugh. I was like, Both times I watched it. Because I watched this in my military base on my phone. The first time I was like, I get why it's funny. The first time, a lot of the humor felt dated. But then the second time I watched it at home, I was like, oh, this is good. This is really good.
There's some parts of it that feel like over the top. Like when Tommy breaks his arm and he's being carried off and he's just screaming like a child the entire way.
It's just like, okay, dude,
Don't touch it.
Whoa. Or for me, like my lens flare was when they're leaving the dock and they just like scrape the spaceship because he doesn't know how to fly.
Yeah.
For the first couple of seconds, I was like, oh, this is hilarious. But then it keeps going for like a minute and a half. It's like, all right, I get it, man.
And turns out all you had to do to learn how to drive was just believe in yourself.
That's right.
And watch old clips of yourself actually pretend driving the ship.
Well, that's just it. I was like, why didn't they know how to do it? They did it for 4 years. But 4 years, after not doing the show for so long, it's a long time.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that crap. But otherwise, the comedy was great. Oh, my God, the one-liners. Alan Rickman.
A lot of it
funny.
a lot of it comes from Alan Rickman and Tim Allen. But Alan Rickman just plays his character 100% straight, and that's where all of the comedic effect comes from for the entire film.
Like, what is it, by Grabthar's
Hammer? Grabthar's Hammer.
By Grabthar's Hammer. What
by
a
the
savings.
sons of war, man. You shall be avenged.
It's so great.
Hello, Alan. This is Alan Rickman.
And he just like has such a disinterested face the whole time. Like it's painful for him saying the dialogue. It's just so funny.
Just the way he interacts with everybody, because the aliens, the Thermites, believe that he is, this legendary half reptilian, half humanoid.
Oh my
doctor.
God.
And they feed him like those bugs. And he was like, how are you enjoying your whatever soup it is? He goes, just like Mom used to make.
They give Tim Allen a steak and mashed potatoes.
Like, I wanted the steak. I would have just...
Right?
If I were Alan Rickman, I would have pushed it aside. Like, can I have what he's having?
Though I saw Sam Rockwell's food, and he had, like, some white noodles, and he, like, sucks it up and then spits it out. I'm like, this is brilliant, man. Most of the comedy was funny. like at the end where they're like going through like the shifting, I guess, metallic like clampers and like the fire shooting.
Yeah, the stompers or
and
whatever.
Sigourney Weaver is like, whoever wrote this episode sucks.
Whoever wrote this episode should die.
Yes. I'm like, I love this, man.
Did you catch some of the like the dubs
Yes.
in this?
Yes, because you mentioned
We
this.
talked about this off air.
The film was supposed to be much darker initially. It was going to be R-rated.
Yes.
But then they switched it to like a PG-13 for
It was
like,
a PG. I was surprised to see that.
for the kiddos. So like she was supposed to drop an F-bomb, say F that, but then she's like,
Screw that.
screw that. And then at one point when Tim Allen's about to get chased by the rock monster, he's like, oh darn.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're paying attention closely, you can
couple times.
scope a lot of those
They
bad
jump.
dubs. It's like watching a Hollywood version of those bad lip reading videos.
Yes. I would be interested in seeing that dark version of this film.
Yeah.
Just to see like if it was more adult humor or whatnot.
I'm hoping that they maybe can reconsider doing like a special cut in a
20
couple of years.
Yeah, it's been 20 years.
Yeah, maybe we could
Why
get
not?
that soon. I mean, producers of Galaxy Quest, if you somehow are listening to this show, we respectfully request that you release an R-rated cut of Galaxy Quest.
We would really
We feel like
appreciate
the
it.
world is ready for it.
We think so. It was great, and we really appreciate your work. Your commentary on Star Trek fandom.
Well, I do think this is, speaking of Star Trek, though, I think this is a welcome change of pace from a lot of space adventure,
Totally.
science fiction films.
It's probably one of the few comedies in space, because you really never see like a Star Trek or like anything like this where it's funny in space. Most comedies are like grounded on Earth or about like some, bachelor guy or guy in the middle of the road or down on its luck. But this is hilarious, and it's in space. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and this film is chock full of good characters.
Oh, well, like the film itself it's not like, it's like a character film. You get to learn and grow with these characters that basically hate well, the majority of them hate Tim Allen's character, but then they all learn throughout the film like how to embrace their own characteristics. Like Tim Allen learns how to be a leader instead of an alcoholic douchebag. Alan Rickman takes his character seriously, and he actually says the line he doesn't want to say. Sigourney Weaver becomes more useful than just repeating what the computer says and talking to it.
Yeah, and Guy realizes that he's more than just cannon fodder.
Yep.
Fred realizes his technical prowess.
Mm-hmm.
As earlier in the film, I think we both conclusively agreed on our red shirt
Oh, the pig.
and / lens flare of the movie when that pig
Yeah.
gets beamed up and turned inside out.
And then blows up.
Yeah, so
It's like, what?
yeah, on first viewing, yeah, that scene was funny when there's entrails all over the place, and then realizing, wait a minute, the thing was already inside out.
I know.
Like it was going to die regardless, and the lens flare and it exploding
Yeah.
was just like, okay, now it's really dead, which again is proving that technology either works or doesn't work. You need to kill an animal,
Yeah.
which I'm not a fan of.
We keep finding this in films. The dead, like people keep killing animals.
This has to be our third or fourth film where that's the case.
Why? Why must we practice on these animals? But it was, it was great dramatic tension, and you were worried about Tim Allen's character when he beamed him up. It was
Yeah,
like, oh,
but then
crap.
the rock monster shows up and relieves that tension because Tim Allen's just like, I don't know how to fight this thing. I need help getting away.
Well, that was great. I'm good with the pig. I'm fine. I'll just take him out. Beat me up. Beat me up. He's just like, beat me up now.
And then his shirt gets ripped off a la William
Oh my
Shatner Star Trek
God.
style.
I know. He played Shatner's character so well. Like the writers of this, I cannot praise enough for how great you guys did. Like the parallels between Star Trek, just brilliant. Like Alan Rickman's character is like Spock, you could say.
Yeah.
And then frickin' Fred is like Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
It was great. The only one they were missing was Bones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, Bones is the sarcastic one. You don't exactly need all the sarcasm when it's coming from other sources.
And they pretty much had that in with Alan Rickman's character anyways.
Yeah.
He was like a combination of Spock and Bones all in one. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and Sigourney Weaver, her quest throughout the movie to do more than
Yeah.
just repeat what the computer is saying.
Right? Because she's like, all I had was a 6-paragraph interview about my boobs.
Yeah.
It's like, man,
I love that scene when they're in the meeting room and she, again, is repeating the computer because she doesn't know what else to do.
Oh, my God.
And Tommy looks at her and goes, "Can you stop doing that?" And she just fires back at him like, "Look, I have one job on this ship, and I'm going to do it the best I can, okay?" And it almost reminded me of like a mom putting her kid in his place because Tommy is the youngest member of this cast.
He is.
I think he was probably maybe like in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
Everyone else is in their late 40s, maybe. Mm-hmm. So she's it's very much a mom putting the kid in the place. It's like, listen, I'm going to do my job. You do yours. So please be quiet.
And she was great. The fact that they cast her after like her Alien series. I mean, great choice, man. She owned it.
Well, I also think that the visual effects and the makeup effects were actually pretty good for the time.
Yes. I wanted to talk about how the makeup and the practical effects were tremendous. Like the villain in this movie is Saris?
Yes, Saris.
Saris. He's basically like this douchebag turtle-like creature with claws.
He's a turtle lobster.
He's a turtle lobster that picks on what are basically these aliens, like octopus that take human form and walk all funny. And they have like the mentality of like children. Like, they don't really grasp the concept of lying. They think Gilligan's Island is real. And he's basically just eradicating everyone in the solar system.
The Gilligan's Island, that throwaway line there.
Oh, that was great.
Those poor people.
Those poor people. They believe Gilligan's Island is real. That was a great scene.
Well, what about
that whole
Saris's subordinate who walks in 3 different times in the movie and goes, "General, I've just received word that blah, blah, blah."
They had to do some callback to Star Trek. It was perfect. But the makeup in this, for those guys, was just on point, man.
Well, it had to be believable to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch some of the original Star Trek, there was next to no makeup.
Yeah.
I mean, in a couple episodes, they had dogs that had spray paint on them.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding.
No way.
Yeah, there was one episode of Star Trek that literally the creature effect was a dog that had spray paint on it.
Oh my God.
I don't know the name of the episode because I'm not that big into Star Trek. But a lot of the makeup effects from the original series were just like prosthetics or really like, I get they had to work with what they got in the 1960s, but nowadays you watch it and it does not hold up.
No, it's like, oh my God. They had like a episode where these little furry monsters like take over. They keep reproducing. And
the Tribbles.
Tribbles. It's just like little balls of fluff. And that's it. It's like little fur balls.
Yeah, they ate all the grain and it was who was that? It was Harry Mudd who was like conned them into taking the Tribbles.
Yep.
Well, also too, you had the effects of Saris and his crew, but also those little blue miners.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was ahead of its time.
It was pretty good. I liked those guys. I was pretty wowed with the CGI of those little cute, adorable, but terrifying creatures.
This was really, in my opinion, this was like a visual effects showcase at the time.
Yeah. They're like, obviously, look at what we can do.
Yeah. Obviously, it's been 20 years since it's come out, but...
So, yeah, it doesn't hold up too well, but you can forgive it for when it was.
Yeah. I mean, this came out near the dawn of when computer graphics were becoming a prominent tool for filmmakers.
Yeah.
And it's not overdone in this movie. I mean, they get away with what they can.
Yeah, like on The Planet, they filmed in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was on location.
Yeah.
Which is nuts to think that, like, that desert, weird rock formation planet is actual real rocks.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Sweet.
It looks straight out of, like, a Star Trek episode.
It did. I think that's why they did it. They're like, hey, look what we can do.
And you get the little blue miners who are just evil and terrifying.
Yes, adorable.
Just love it when they rip apart their injured compatriot.
Oh my God, yes. The kid's like limping to the pool and then they just
bam. Oh, look, the other one's hurt. And then, no.
Only the strong survive.
No.
Should we eat him? Let's hit him with a rock first and then we'll eat him. It's like, yes. Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this film.
Also, Stan Winston, the legendary Stan Winston. Completed the effects on this.
And he did a great job.
Again, we don't need to list Stan Winston's resume because the man is a legend. Another rest in peace to Stan Winston.
Google him if you don't know him, but his work is just incredible.
Really, if you like science fiction films as much as we do, you know who Stan Winston is.
Yeah, they did a darn good job. Even like the gel capsules for the transport was amazing. Like that was probably one of my favorite scenes when he comes back and then like the whole crew gets transported onto the ship and they're all just like befuddled with what they saw.
Thermians were
Disgusting.
So disgusting. Then they needed those appearance generators or whatever they call them in the movie.
Even their voice was disgusting. It's just like, ooh. Whoa.
I guess so. They were just originally written straight, but it was the actor who played Mathazar in the film. It was his choice to add that weird inflection.
Okay.
And the director liked it and decided to make that like a trait amongst all of the Thermians.
Okay. Yeah. He's just...
We need your help. Like it's almost like mid-Atlantic British with weird inflections. Like I don't know how to describe it because I've never heard anything like that before.
No, it's the first time I've ever heard that. Hey, kudos to him, man, for coming up on the spot with that. But apparently that's what they did. And a lot of the film was sets. Like the whole spaceship. They didn't want to do like in the TV series where the actors just jump and then they do shaky cam. The actual set shook and the actors were just standing still.
Well, yeah, you have to add a sense of realism to that. And the whole stage, that the bridge set was built on that gimbal and they just shook it all up.
Yeah, Alan Rickman says if you look hard enough, you'll see him looking up because he was worried throughout the entire filming process that the whole thing was going to collapse on him. He's like, I hope I don't die on here.
I feel like we could talk about the characters
forever.
so much in this movie.
Like
Alan Rickman is just the best. I mean, I love that his prosthesis, his headpiece, doesn't come off for the entire movie.
The whole film, and he hates the role, and he never takes it off.
It's like no matter what he does, the character will always be a part of him. And it's not until when Quellic is killed that line that he hates saying more than anything in the world, it finally has meaning for him. For the first time in his career, he's finally able to say that with conviction, and it means something for him.
That's right. Because Saris, I guess, takes over the ship, so they got to take it back. Just great. The dialogue was great. Super easy. This film, was just very black and white.
Yeah.
You knew exactly what the characters were. They all came above and beyond their own traits and, not too much exposition. I loved it.
Well, it's a lot of nods to Star Trek, too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was a great take on fan culture. And everything, what the actors, DeForest Kelley, the guy that played Bones, what he basically went through in his entire career once he got cast in Star Trek, he could never escape the conventions. It was brilliant, and what they actually went through, and the actors actually talk about this, because they had actors in Star Trek that reviewed the films.
Yeah, we will get to that though.
Yes.
Well, I think this is a good point to bring up the climax / ending of the film.
Yes, before we go into what the actors say, let's talk about the big ending.
Well, prior to the events of the climax, Tim Allen had this rather, loud encounter with a fan who was asking him some technical question on the show, and he was a bit he was shorter with him than he should have been.
Well, it's basically like if a fan is super into, let's say, Lord of the Rings, and your Orlando Bloom is Legolas, and then I come up to Legolas and I'm like, dude, do you know what the fur and the arrows are made from? What's the wood in them? Man, what's the armor made up, man? And then you're just like, what the crap?
I don't know.
Freaking know this. It's a movie, dude. And that's basically what Tim Allen says to the kid. He rebuffs him.
Yeah,
brushes him
he
off
tells him
twice.
it's just a show.
Yeah.
And in a way, I mean, Tim Allen is correct. But in some ways, for fan culture, I mean, his portrayal of the commander on the show is everything to Justin Long.
Yeah.
It means so much to him to be at this convention and hang out with his heroes.
Absolutely.
And he just gets thrown off and dismissed. I mean,
it's got to be heartbreaking.
I haven't had anything like that happen to me.
No.
Thankfully. I tend to... I don't go to those conventions.
No, I follow Morrissey's quote, never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be let down. But I actually thought the film was going to take a different turn and have Justin Long's character be like, oh, screw you at the end.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't.
That the movie would have ended right there. It's like, who's this? Like, oh, you're the guy who yelled at me. Slams the communicator on the ground. Climax over, movie over. I guess you're gonna die.
But it's not that type of film.
Yeah, and then with the help of Justin Long's nerdy friends, they get the ship up and running, and all's good. And they think they're gonna go back home, and then who shows up on the bridge but Saris disguised as Fred, and he shoots everybody in the back.
And then they use the device. What's the device in the film?
The Omega-13
The Omega-13
slash Deus Ex Machina.
Yes, because the entire film, Cyrus wants the Omega-13. He doesn't know what it's used for, but he wants control of the world. And there's two outcomes. It's either going to obliterate life, or it's going to basically time warp you back for like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And the Deus Ex Machina of this film, the Omega-13, ends up doing a time warp back for 10 to 15 seconds so Tim Allen can go and kill Cyrus, or what he thinks is killing
I do
Cyrus.
think it is weird, though, that Tim Allen is aware that he traveled back in time,
but
and
no one
else is.
I was going to ask you if, because it's time travel, it's another sci-fi film that uses a little bit of time travel, but I forgave it. The reason why I forgave it is because the film wasn't about time travel, and it was just like the Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, but the Omega-13 was a pretty strong plot device throughout the movie, so that, for me, was kind of like an eye-rolly moment there. It's like, really? You're the only one who knows that you activated this thing?
I know. I basically was like, okay. But, I was like, whatever. The film's almost out, and the film ends pretty quickly after that. So I forgave it.
Yeah, but then the ship crash lands in the parking lot, and then they all get out and leave. But that final laser blast to defeat Cyrus, I thought that was a bit underwhelming compared to everything that had happened leading up to the film. He does a tuck and roll and shoots him in the chest, and that's it.
Well, he finally gets to do what he was doing on the alien planet, rolling around. And he has this.
Do you think the rolling
moment.
is helping?
Yeah. It was a little underwhelming, because you thought it was going to be something more. But, I mean, I think that might just be chalked up to, like, us in our new films in the modern age. We're used to, like, these elaborate final showdowns. But, some of the best cinematic moments in history is when Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones just shoots the sword guy, and he's, like, flipping it around. And he just takes out the weapon and boop.
That's because Harrison Ford had dysentery and he couldn't do another take. Because that was supposed to be a much longer fight sequence. He had dysentery. He could barely stand up as he was pooping so much.
That's crazy. But hey, it ends up being a great moment in history.
Yeah.
So,
and I do want to mention this before we move on, that this movie reminded me a lot of a book I read last year. And I think I mentioned this to you. It's called Red Shirts by Dean Scalzi.
Yes.
And the book takes the premise of, it's set around this this space federation that does a similar mission to like the Enterprise and the Protector, where they're going around and they're having first contact or saving human races. But it turns out that the universe that they live in is a creation of the show's writers, and the universe they're in is actually a Hollywood show.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Like, I read the book last year, and the book, it was awesome. I probably read it in a couple of days. So if you have a minute to read it, go to your local library, check it out, read it. Without Galaxy Quest, I don't think Red Shirts would have happened.
So this week, Force-Fed Sci-Fi has a book recommendation.
We have a very first book recommendation of Red Shirts by Dean Scalzi. Yes.
Go figure, man. The show is evolving.
We're becoming a bit highbrow. Now we're giving out book recommendations. People are going to come back and say, Chris, I got to read a book now.
Oh, man. Book recommendations, mental health awareness. What is next? What will we do next, folks? Oh, my God.
Picture show. But you can't, because this is an audio show.
One day we will be on YouTube.
So let's talk about the legacy of Galaxy Quest, shall we?
Let's talk about the actors, what they thought.
Yeah, so this movie was actually, I was surprised to find out, pretty beloved amongst like Star Trek actors. Like Patrick Stewart sings its praises about it. Tim Russ, who played Tuvok on Voyager, he enjoys this. William Shatner, Will Wheaton, George Takei, Takei. I'm to be honest, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but
I won't judge you.
Kind sir, you are a gentleman and a scholar. The only person I saw who didn't really care for it was Casey Biggs, who was, I guess, Damar on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
But my thoughts are, if everybody else loves it, enjoys it, and you're the lone dissenting opinion,
You're wrong.
yes, you are wrong.
I think, though, they love it because of basically, it's perfect adaptation of what they go through as actors, being typecast in a great show and then basically being regulated to doing Comic Con and stuck with that for money. So they probably, it basically hit on all cylinders for them.
You know who else loves this movie?
Who?
J.J. Abrams. He has called Galaxy Quest his favorite Star Trek film.
How ironic that he ended up directing 2 Star Trek films.
Yeah. But it also grossed $90 million.
All right.
And currently holds a 90% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So
it's got a great rating.
Take that for what you will. So is either of that surprising to you at all?
No, it's not surprising to me because I don't know if people in the modern age remember, but Star Trek was big in the late 80s throughout the 90s. They had Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and then the Enterprise series. And those 4 were so big, so I can understand why people went and saw the show. Because Space Adventure, it's a spoof.
Well, even now, Star Trek is starting to come back.
It's coming back now, but it wasn't as big, I feel like, now as it was back in the day when people just waited weekly for that episode.
Well, that's like with a lot of pieces of pop culture. The feelings for it wax and wane, every couple of decades or so.
It would be like how people like Game of Thrones in modern times with Star Trek back then. But I mean, it's also different because there's way more access to media and entertainment. But I can totally see why people loved it. Because it's a great movie. And it's really funny.
To be honest, I'm surprised it didn't make more money.
Yes. Because you would think now, like in modern films, well, I guess with inflation, it's probably up to over 100 million.
Yeah, I would think
It's
so
gotta
too.
be.
But this also opened on Christmas Day, 1999.
Which is kind of crazy. Christmas Day. That kind of shocked me. I was like, wow.
Well, you know what else opened that day? Angela's Ashes, The Talented Mr. Ripley, and Magnolia.
All right, so this, I can see why.
I think if this movie came out in July, maybe, I think it would have done a bit better.
Yes,
because this has
that's
summer.
What I was going to say.
This has summer blockbuster comedy written all over it.
Oh, totally. I wonder why they waited until Christmas.
Maybe it didn't work out release schedule wise.
Yeah,
because DreamWorks, the distributor, this was one of their first movies, and they, I don't know, maybe just didn't feel like they could compete in the summer months, which is understandable. I mean, in award season is kind of slow. People do want to change a pace from all the films that might win Oscars to see something that's
silly,
funny and they can turn off their brain for a little bit. I totally get that.
Same.
Because you know what? I mean, we all need movies where we can just enjoy it and watch it for what it is. And this is certainly that. So obviously it didn't win any Oscars or anything like that.
Which you'd think with the makeup and special effects, it would get nominated at least.
There were other movies that came out that year that I think did better with the makeup.
Yeah, and that was back in the day when the Oscars were still like, their noses were to the sky with comedies. They're like, oh, you vile things, you're not art.
The Academy still very much turns its nose up to comedies and even comic book films,
which is really sad.
Which wasn't until recently with
Black Panther,
and even the new the Spider-Verse film too. But Tim Allen did win a Saturn Award for Best Actor.
Oh, that's dope.
Which, if you're unfamiliar with the Saturn Awards, they recognize achievements in horror and science fiction films, and we like to reference them too on the show when we can, because these films, even if they don't get Oscar consideration, they do deserve consideration in their own right.
Well, Saturns, they're basically the sci-fi Oscars. And, I was very impressed with Tim Allen in this film. I didn't think that moving from a TV actor to a film actor, they could carry. And he really did well.
Also, too,
he had a good cast.
Yeah. With the success of this movie, we didn't get a sequel to it.
No, we did not. And I know they wanted to do a sequel for a while.
There was talks of maybe doing a television show, but with the passing of Alan Rickman, it seems like those hopes have been dashed.
Which really sucks.
Rightfully so, because who else are you going to cast to fill
you couldn't.
Alan Rickman's shoes? You can't do it.
It would be impossible. And I know I read that it was up and down for years. For like a decade, it was in development hell. And then like right around 2014, 2015, they're like, hey, it might be good. It might be a go, but he passed, unfortunately.
Yeah, which, again, rest in peace, Mr. Rickman. Man. You are a legend and a treasure.
Very much. He's great.
So, with all of that in mind, Sean, what do you say we rate Galaxy Quest. On the scale of what we use here on Force-Fed Sci-Fi of wouldn't watch, would own, and would host a viewing party, what do you give 1999's Galaxy Quest?
I'd be down for a would own for this. And even maybe even would host a viewing party, because I think if you love sci-fi and you're down for a really good, and you love Star Trek, you should see this. This is a perfect extension of Star Trek, and if you love sci-fi, just go for it. It's not dated. CGI is incredible. The writing is incredible. It's super easy. It's not a convoluted plot. You'll love it. How about you?
You know, I have to agree with you, but take it a step further and say I would full stop host viewing parties.
You
for
would
this.
host? Okay.
Well,
I'm like a 3.5. I'm like right in there. I'm both.
well, you only saw it for this show. You didn't watch it previous to this. I think you would probably benefit more from repeat viewings and grow to appreciate it like other people have.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right there. I mean, to me, I remember seeing this when it came out. I mean, I remember my dad adding this to our movie collection. So I have watched this over the years, and like I said at the top of the show, I was excited when this came back in the list. I was excited to revisit this film and enjoy it and laugh. And, you know, I agree with everything you said. Yeah. It's not a ripoff of Star Trek. It's more of a very elaborate tribute to the series as a whole and the tropes that espoused. And it's a good romp of a space adventure.
It is.
I don't need any substance with this movie because that's not what I'm looking for. It's a good, simple, straightforward comedy. Yeah. Sometimes that is a more welcome break than anything you could ask for. So I think that about wraps it up on Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
Let's pick our film for next time.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to enlist the help of our friendly random number generator AI. What's her name, Sean?
Major Samantha.
Yes. She is going to assist us by picking from a list of 118 films she has selected.
Beep, boop, 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 bah.
Number 22.
Oh, whoa.
Are you ready for this one?
Give it to me.
It is the 1993 instant phenomenon classic timeless film directed by Steven Spielberg. It is Jurassic Park.
That is awesome. I am so stoked for this.
I don't need much of a reason to watch Jurassic Park, so I am so pumped to watch this movie.
I watch this like every year.
You know, my girlfriend had never seen Jurassic Park until a few weeks ago.
Oh, my God.
That was one of the things I told her, like, okay, enough. We need to watch this.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
yes!
I am too. So that will be our movie for next time.
Check us out, guys.
Watch along with us. And if you enjoyed today's show, please go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. It helps drive us up the charts as well as help people like you find the show. We are across the spectrum of social media with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Force-Fed Sci-Fi. You can check out and download episodes at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Stitcher, or wherever you find podcasts. And please subscribe so you never miss an episode. And finally, you can check out our website, forcefedsci-fi.com, for show notes and links to all of our social media. So for myself and all of us at the Force-Fed Sci-Fi team, we'll see you next time. Force-Fed Sci-Fi is written and hosted by Sean Culp and Chris Rupp. Website design, associate producer, and editing by Jeremy Keski. Artwork designed by Mike Berger. Theme music composed and performed by Custom Anthem.